Welcome to Bonehead Weekly. How is everyone other than tired?
I
You don't
had a
look
rel
good.
I didn't know I never looked good. I had a relatively good day though. I mean, it was a complicated day. I got some bad news, but I got some good news. I feel like I'm moving forward. That's probably not going to work out. And next week, if you ask me for an update, it'll probably be like, well, the dog caught the cat on fire, and that went downhill quick. And I don't even own a dog, which is the weirdest thing about how this pyro dog got in my house and set my cat on fire. And I don't know where I'm going with this anymore.
This is
How are
my
you?
fault.
I will say this on IMDb. I got a recommendation because I looked up that the Jerry Lewis movie,
Slapstick of another kind.
Slapstick of Another Kind.
Hmm.
It's called In God We Trust, or Give Me That Primetime Religion.
Oh, that's the one with Marty Feldman and
Written and
Richard Pryor
directed.
and Andy Kaufman.
Danny Kaufman. You never seen it,
Yeah,
Chad?
Richard Pryor plays God, right?
Yeah,
I.
never seen it.
Oh,
It's
dude,
for me tough to watch.
I think I ordered
It
it
doesn't have good
on
ratings.
Blu-ray. I think I ordered it on Blu-ray because I caught it once at back in the day, Joe, and we talked about this before, when AMC used to do those, oh my God, why are you still up? And they'd show
And Turner
random
Classic
movies.
Movies did it for a long time too.
Turner
I
Classic,
guess
I'm sorry, I
TC,
said
it's
AMC.
Turner
It's Turner
Classic
Classic
Movies. Yeah.
Movies. I caught the first 30 minutes of it. And for some reason, they did a thing where they did little known Marty Feldman movies like 4 days in a row. And that was back in the days of DVR. And I DVR'd it. The last remake of Bo Geist
Which
or
I
Bo
also
Guest.
haven't seen that I need to see.
Oh man, it's Michael York. And by the way, I didn't realize like what a big joke that's a joke that's lost on everybody now. But I didn't realize like every 10 years for a while somebody would remake Bo Geist, Guest, whatever, as a movie. And so the fact that they called it the last remake at that time was a joke, but it was well earned. Um, so anyway, no, I enjoyed those
Yellowbeard. It's up
because
there with Yellowbeard to me.
yeah,
Although I've never finished watching Yellowbeard.
they're completely weird and off the wall and not great, but there's scenes in them I love.
Hmm.
Plus, to be honest, Andy Kaufman and Richard Pryor in the same movie just take the ride.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But anyway, yeah, yeah.
It's better than Heart Beeps, which is another Andy Kaufman film where he
That's
plays a
another movie
robot.
that I need to see.
That's
Heartbeats,
also
I'll
damn near unwatchable.
yeah, but yeah. In
Your
all
version of
honesty,
damn near unwatchable is not anybody else's
that's true.
definition of damn near unwatchable.
I
That's
think
true.
that a lot of people are going to have a hard time setting through Heart Beeps.
You hate most things.
I do not. That would be
No,
actually.
no, seriously. Everybody who watches the show knows Joe Lewis says, I hate every movie ever made, except Orson Welles.
That's not true.
It
He's
really
got some.
doesn't. It's
Yeah, hold
not
on.
even.
That's not true. He's got some notes on Orson Welles. Some of the
Or
films
as
are.
me and James like to say, and it falls apart in the third act.
I mean, a lot
This
of
is his
movies.
ongoing joke, audience, for the last like 4 weeks.
No, it's
This is
not.
all he's
That's
got
literally
for the
what he
last
says.
three
Actually,
times. It just keeps
in all
coming
fairness,
back because it is something I've said several times, and he just keeps coming back to it
No,
week
it's literally,
after
folks,
week
what he says
after week,
every movie we watch.
every week,
in all fairness, actually,
every.
it's not just Chad. I think Wes has said that several
Wes has said
times.
it too. And I
Yeah, so
stand by most of them. They almost, and there's something Bill Maher said in an interview several times is movies do a really good job of doing a really good opening, and they never stick to the landing. And he's right. The great
well,
movies
no,
stick to the
and
landing.
we had this conversation a little bit this weekend when we were watching some films for Halloween. Um, that's actually my critique and I really did enjoy it, and so many people recommend it to me. But Late Night with the Devil, I was like, I wrote a better ending in my head than that movie had.
Which
It's
is funny
great.
because I actually didn't have a problem with the ending.
I didn't either.
I just, I wanted a
I
twist so
think
bad,
I
and I
think
didn't get a
both
twist.
movies we watched this weekend stuck the landing.
Yeah, I that second one.
It had moments, yeah.
Yeah, it had it. No, it that's. I
We
looked that
start
up.
we started too strong with When Evil Lurks.
And by the way, my complaint of the first one is the same complaint if you look it up online. That dumb motherfucker.
Well, we
Yeah,
said that when we watched it.
I,
but in all
damn it, that's
fairness,
what I just said, Chad. Is
now
that if you look it
let me
up, that's what
say,
everybody's like. That dumb motherfucker. All of it. In fact, most of the people who even give it negative reviews is like, this character makes so many stupid decisions. It drove me crazy.
but in all fairness, his stupid decisions are caused by that one guy's stupid decision as well.
Yeah.
right? But it's so compelling to watch.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Anyway.
And who was that recommended that movie, Joe?
Greg Nicotero.
Yeah, Greg
And Adam Green too, though.
Yeah.
Was he there? I'm joking.
Well, now we're
Probably
never going
funny
to
to
get
me.
Adam Green as a guest. Thanks.
Oh, I don't think that was going to be a problem.
Happen anyway. Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
So what's the topic? Who picked the topic this week?
This is
It
a
was
chat.
a joint. Oh, I thought it was a joint venture between me and James. I was giving us both.
No.
credit.
Well, you came up with the idea, and then I had some. Oh, well, we can do it this way. So, but the original idea, I want to give credit where it's due. You had this idea. I wanted to give you credit. I was trying to give you credit, Glory Hog. What? Nothing. Go ahead.
No, so we were just talking about horror movies and what is the best weapon used to kill the victims in horror films.
And
go ahead.
well, what? Because I was thinking, so a little bit about this. This was actually what we pitched when we thought at Scarefest. We weren't going before we got Charlie Band. This is what we were going to do live on stage because I thought, oh, this will be great because no matter what anybody says, it can be critiqued by the others, right? There is no, because I was even thinking what weapon even the hero uses. And I immediately went, no matter what you say, you can be like, well, that's great for this, but would it work for that, right?
Yeah. Because no matter what they use in the horror movies, it's flawed one way or the other in how it's delivered. It's just delivered for shock value for the most part. And I want to point out there's one thing we got to exempt from this episode. And I am pulling this. No guns.
Yeah, well, that's because
we're not pulling guns into this episode.
Because guns, if we learned anything from When Evil Lurks, that just spreads them, spreads the demons, just spreads them everywhere. They go everywhere. Get demons everywhere. In your pantaloons. Demon pantaloons.
So who wants to go first?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, I'll go first. I'll go with the tried and true. The butcher knife.
Now, are you going with just a butcher knife or are you going with like finger knives?
No, I'm going with the butcher knife. Most popularly used by Mike Myers and Chucky.
I was going to say Norman Bates, but yes.
Yeah, Norman, but
well, I wasn't considering, but yeah, Norman Bates. Yeah, good point.
But again, I think that.
Hold on, James. Hold on. Good point, asshole.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I didn't mean to stop you mid thought, Chad. I didn't. I apologize. That's on me.
You're welcome. I have to throw an insult his way.
So and this is actually, as I said, if we were doing this live, the reason I thought, oh, this would work great if we were live, because I can critique any weapon you come up with. Because for me, you've got to be up close.
I know.
You have
to be sneaky with it.
But you have to be up close for everything because you guys took out guns.
No, there's other things that aren't guns that you could use. Oh, dude, I'll give you an example when it's my turn. But I think the problem is like I'll go with Norman Bates. I love Psycho. I mean, it's hard not to give credit to Psycho for being the film that it is and accomplishing what it does. But how is it that he's water resistant? When he kills in the shower, that's a slick surface. The tile floor of the hotel is going to be slick. That when you put the knife into the water is going to run down your arm. It's going to get in the floor of the hotel. You're going to risk falling. It's a miracle he didn't slip himself and end up stabbing himself after he killed him.
I never understood how he got how he impaled her anyway, how he actually killed her. Because I mean, there were so many different ways. I mean, you know,
it's
no, you lost me on that one.
It's not a great movie, but it's actually one of the scenes in Silence of the Hams that I love, where it keeps, because you know what Psycho is, bam, 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 it's repeated, and it just cuts to him like using the edge of the knife to tickle her feet and do all that stuff. It's stupid, but it's the same. I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's the same logic of, okay, wait a second, there. And then she screams, and there, and there, and there. But like, so it's
the hand movements don't really follow the stabbing,
No, no, it's
So it was like, it's fine. It's the way that movie was shot back in the day, but it just didn't look like it was actually doing anything to her. It was,
I mean, they couldn't. I mean, they couldn't actually show the penetration. I'm confused about
oh,
the.
don't you start with you go ahead and bitch on Goonies.
oh well now
I
he's
don't have
ma-
a fucking clue what you are talking about right now. Where they're coming down when they're trying to stab. What do you mean you
repeatedly. It's repeated, right?
right? Yeah, it's
Repeatedly.
repeatedly. Yeah.
And it's not like the way he's stabbing, it doesn't look like he's actually penetrating her in any shape, way, or form or hitting her. It almost
You
looks,
see the blood in the water,
yeah.
and
And the
I
way that
get
cuts to her, just it doesn't, you don't see like, how is this hurting her?
Well, I mean, they just couldn't show that much at the time. I
well,
don't
no,
think that's a
I
flaw.
understand. Yeah,
I understand that. It's just saying, from the looks of it, Norman Bates isn't doing anything.
hold on, and let me do Bart Simpson from the first Treehouse of Horror. Yeah, it's kind of like Friday the 13th by today's standards seems pretty tame.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually just watched that just last night. Actually,
Which
the
one?
same
What?
one you're just talking about, that Treehouse of Horror. My kids.
I
Oh.
did. I watch them all through every year. I watch every episode and get caught up, and I'm excited that Halloween doesn't end till November now.
I didn't get to
because-
watch any of them this year, and I'm disappointed in myself.
But no, I see. I mean, obviously, yes, because of the way the film was set up and everything, they couldn't show the actual and the effects wouldn't have worked if they did. It's more psychological. All of that I agree with. But I do think, like I said, it makes me think of the way that Silence of the Hams makes fun of it,
Yeah.
where the knife comes in and tickles her feet, and then all the
Yeah,
and it does stupid sight gags because it's this.
it's just
It's
this.
just-
It's
and
not.
it's-
And again, we're getting it, Joe. It's old. They couldn't show things, but with Mike Myers and Chucky, you see like full effect what a butcher knife can do. It's traumatizing. It's lethal. It has the full force of just terror of what somebody with strength can do with Mike Myers, and with Chucky, it's somebody who's very sneaky and stealthy when they come up on you, and they could just slice you from very, very short.
And this may be the reason why I don't like slashers, but I never it's another one of those where I never found like the knife thing scary. Did you all find it scary? Somebody walking around with a butcher knife?
Not walking around with it,
Or
but
like the ghost face is a good example if we don't use
yeah,
same-
Ghostface never,
we're gonna-
Ghostface never scared me.
Well, it's not that they scare me, but I mean I don't
Or
just
the
whole
Ghostface
thing
running
with
around with a
knife.
butcher
I
knife.
don't know
Yeah.
that somebody coming at me with a butcher knife. I mean,
Yeah, like
in-
that doesn't bother me because that fucker's going to trip. But the way Mike Myers and Chucky attacked with the butcher knife was effective.
Actually, I would twist that and say actually I think Ghostface is actually where he falls, hits, all the things you all were just bitching about actually happens in most of the Scream movies. They actually do that. That's the one compliment I'll give them. Like he falls, he gets the shit kicked out of him. There's slippery things on the floor, all that stuff.
Yeah, it uses Home Alone mechanics.
No, I don't know that it's Home Alone mechanics, but you were talking about what wouldn't he fall? But I was like, actually, and the whole time you were saying that, I was like, actually, I think Scream actually delves into that through
Yeah,
most.
no, it does. It does. I was being sarcastic with the Home
It's
Alone
actually a
mechanics.
compliment I'll
But
say
yes.
about them. I'm not a big fan of most of them. I really like the first one, and I don't truthfully haven't rewatched the second and third one in years, so I have no idea. Maybe I'd like them better now, but.
All right, that's my pick. Who's next?
So I would be more freaked out by my pick, which would be the chainsaw. Now I understand you can outrun somebody with a chainsaw, but a chainsaw is just so destructive. Somebody coming at you and actually getting you with a chainsaw, that freaks me out a little bit. And there's
but
I
you
could
have to
sit
hold
here for
two.
I could sit here for 2 years talking about all the different people who use chainsaws. First being Leatherface, but what were you saying?
You have to hold two buttons to get it to go.
No, it's just the trigger.
Well, in all fairness, too,
And
I
then
mean,
it could get the choke. It's got too many parts.
Have you used the chainsaw?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he did recently. Did you not remember him talking about having to do backyard work this last week? Do you
Is
not?
this
Do you
one of
not?
the ones I got
Sometimes
left out? Was
engines
this between Phil and Craig?
Oh
sometimes
my
engine stall. He
God,
doesn't listen to me.
he
Sometimes
doesn't.
engine stall. Hold on now. This is where Joe's not going to agree with anybody because he's right.
Oh my God. Oh, did I enter into the middle of something?
I have no idea, James. He was
Mommy and
fine
Daddy,
before
you're
we
ruining
pushed
my
record.
birthday.
He was just we were just fine before we pushed record. So
Oh
the
no. No,
chainsaw
I
would
agree
be
with
the
you.
one.
No, chainsaws absolutely terrify me.
The idea
I
of
was actually
seeing.
at a haunted sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was actually at a haunted house with my daughter for Christmas for Halloween this year.
And that's how
And
he supports the holidays.
nothing
I,
bothered me about the haunted house. It was absolutely fine. But towards the end, my daughter had me pushed up on a hill, and a guy came running out with a chainsaw. Now, obviously, there was no chain on it. I could see that, but he was still fucking running at me, and my daughter wouldn't let me off this hill to get on the path. And it still the sound of the chainsaw and him running at me with this thing up in the air freaked me out, and I grabbed her and I ran.
I just
It is
there's
absolutely
you
terrifying.
grabbed her and threw her at that man and ran.
No,
butcher knives. I guess I
I
should
did the
tell
right
you
thing.
the
I
other
grabbed
ones
my daughter and ran.
and threw her at her. But the yeah, a chainsaw would be my first pick as far as a horror weapon, especially one that I wouldn't want to have to deal with. It's a chainsaw. James.
You know, I, I have a different experience with it because I've realized how quickly you can live through hitting your own leg with a chainsaw. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
but I
just,
mean not when someone
oh, I know.
shoves it into your abdomen.
No,
Or
well, and
cut your head
actually,
off, which is the best. Maybe that and the bus scene are the two best scenes in that Netflix chainsaw movie.
well,
The
and I
kid
was going
was
to say that
head
the
off.
Oh,
flip,
the Texas Chainsaw. I never bothered to watch it.
It's okay.
but my
Third
flip
act.
side of that
No, actually,
is
I like that last shot.
the flip side of it is because I think about, if our point, and I know it's not, it's just in my head. If our point is to determine the ultimate horror weapon, my problem with chainsaw is it doesn't work in every horror movie, right? Because here's my issue with the chainsaw is it doesn't work in 28 Days Later.
No, and it actually the biggest problem with the dickhead was talking about me in the third act. Actually, what it was is actually my biggest problem with that movie is Leatherface goes in, knocks a hole in the wall, pulls out a chainsaw. It's clearly been sitting there for 20 years. Back to a dickhead talking about the choke. There's
Choke.
no way that
Yep.
fucking Briggs and
Yeah.
Stratton is starting up. It's just
No,
not.
no.
Never
Well, it's a
going to
Briggs
start.
and Stratton. Briggs and
It was the
Stratton
most
always starts.
most unbelievable part of the movie. I
What
should think of the Homeland
in the future, what you'll have to think about
or
is
McCulloch. Maybe a McCulloch.
it, is Leatherface going to have solar panels attached to him so he can start up his electric one because it's environmentally friendly?
Mhm.
These are questions. These are questions. Yeah, no, but no, that's always what I think about because I'm like, chainsaw. It looks cool. Obviously, Ash. Obviously, things like that. Heroes use them. Villains use them. It looks cool, but it's so impractical. I mean, if you've ever had to use a chainsaw to do much of anything, the amount of time they can bind if the tree's too thick, the amount of time, oh God, it's one thing after another. It's
And two stroke. You've got to get the oil and the gas.
and then, oh yeah, and then my entire thing is I've learned personally it's just easier to burn the forest down.
James,
That's the way you get Smokey the Bear. And if you don't like Smokey the
it's the way
Bear,
you got Smokey and the Bandit.
actually that too, I'm pretty sure Jackie Gleason loves fire. Um, no, so here's my thinking, gentlemen. My favorite and most disturbing to me horror element weapon, and this is I know it's really broad. You'll have to forgive me, or you don't have to, whatever. It's your life. Um, is traps and weird traps and everybody wants to think Saw. I want to think Cube.
Yeah.
The Cube trap rooms are some of the most just disconcerting, just oh my God, rooms that cut you in half or cut you into cubes. All the different things that go into there. And so when I was thinking about what actually gets me in horror films, it's not the chainsaw, it's not the knife, it's the you went into this room because you're trying to get out, you're trying to get somewhere, you're trying to accomplish your mission. And the movies that have traps, and I had forgot about the scene, but I was watching. My son loves video games, so I was introducing him to Resident Evil. And the first Resident Evil movie, I had forgotten. I talked to Joe about this. It's a little slow. I mean, compared to the later.
Great third act.
Yeah, but once they get to that room,
I just
There's a
realized
really
what you
good
did.
opening. There's a
Son of
really
a
good.
bitch. I was too slow.
it's a really good opening.
It's a really good opening, but a great
And
third.
then once they get to the room, the trap room with the lasers that come in and just kill. I mean, and then they have to
Holy
go
shit,
back
that is
through.
accurate. It is really that the third act of that's the only thing that holds up the movie. I actually Pudfucker there won't remember, but I remember him looking over at me in the middle of the movie theater. I think it was at Mount Sterling. Chad saying needs a little bit more.
Yeah.
It is. It's a very slow start, which actually I appreciate now because in my mind, I remember it being much quicker, and the later movies totally are.
They're just completely
But
different.
it's a slow burn that first until they really get into it, and then once they mess with that Red Queen, I tell you. Anyway, but
It still doesn't get good, Jay.
no, but it's fun. It's for that time period. Video game movie. It's one of the better ones. I
Yeah,
will defend it.
unfortunately, you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
I will defend
I will
it.
give you
And it's
that, but that's
fun.
not
It's
saying much.
yeah, it's fun. It does what it needs to do. But anyway, I think about so that's what I think about for horror. Like because my entire thing is I can hear that chainsaw coming. I can, I see somebody with a knife, I'm like, I'm not talking to that dude. I'm gonna go the other way. But if I walk into a room, I just go in thinking I'm gonna make a sandwich or something, and then all of a sudden something just kills me, or a pit opens up and I fall into a pit of needles like in Saw. All of
Mhm.
these different traps are the ones that get me. They're the ones that go, now just what are you gonna do? Like and I think the reason I bring up Cube, and if you've never seen Cube, watch Cube. Watch the first Cube. Nicole DeBoer is in it. And so it's not a huge name cast, but it's really good.
It's
It's a really good
it's a
movie.
great. Mhm.
And I just love the fact that, their option is, oh, well, this room's safe. We can stay in here and starve to death.
And I want to point out, Joe said it was good, and it's not directed by Orson Welles.
That's true. I mean, you can't prove it.
Or
Sure.
I would say I was going to actually make that joke for you, Joe. Or is it? And it's him directing from beyond the grave.
Grave.
Ooh.
Well, the Canadian. I can't remember
Um,
that guy's name. I can never say it correctly. Also,
I can't remember it either.
Vincenzo Natali.
yeah, Natali. He's really good. That splice is so damn good.
Uh,
Oh, it really is. I
but
forgot.
I remember I
forgot
rented
the same
it
guy who
when
did Cube did Splice.
I rented it when it came out. When I first saw it at Blockbuster, and that they only had 2 or 3 copies, but everybody's like, "Oh, you've got to see Cube. You got to see Cube." And I was like, "Oh, I'll rent it." I loved it. Um, and so I think, but that's my weapon of choice. If you want to really creep me out with a horror movie, just traps. Just I don't care if it's a bear trap. I don't care what it is. There's something so disconcerting, and it's more disconcerting to me going. If I hear it coming or if I see it coming, it doesn't bother me. It's when I just think I'm walking through the woods or I think I'm walking into a room and then something just gets me. I think it's also the reason, and it's not per se a trap. It's a scheme in Ghost Ship, but I think it's why I will argue the first 10 minutes of Ghost Ship, maybe some of the best.
Yeah, it's
Just
one of the best openings to a horror film of all time. Yeah.
yeah, it. The rest of the movie I love, I enjoy. I love all the Dark Castle films, but man, that beginning got me for the rest of the movie.
Oh yeah.
That and the use of
I will say this: after that opening, the rest of that movie was utterly disappointing. Though.
oh yeah, because it amped everything up. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got Carl Urban going for it though, so I'm defending it.
Yeah.
That it has that great song by John Frizzle, "My Little Box," where when it's going through and you're giving the backstory, the really creepy tune that plays.
I didn't
Um,
realize Carl Urban was in Ghost Ship.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was not bad. Anyway, um,
Chad?
yeah, yep. Traps are it. Bees,
All right.
bees in the trap, Joe.
The bees, not the bees. Guys, I'm gonna go old school, and I just got to talk about just basic physical strength. however implausible. So I got to talk about the characters such as Jason, even some as you can. I don't remember any Mike Myers other than the Rob Zombie Michael Myers, especially when he's fighting Ken Faree. You see some with Pumpkinhead, but basically just there's no weapons involved. They just use their hands to utterly destroy their victim. One that really sticks out to my mind, and it's shot awful, but Jason 3D when he squashes the guy's head with his hands. I don't know if y'all remember that one.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. Actually,
Yeah.
I was thinking more about him just picking up a sleeping bag with somebody and smacking him across a tree.
Yeah, Jason X, or
Yeah.
where he punches the guy's head off, even though however unfathomable, and Jason takes Manhattan.
That one I tried rewatching that one 7 and 8 while I had COVID last January,
We
and
talked about this, right? And how
I never finished it.
it's not like Jason Takes Manhattan as a
That
kid.
that first 15 minutes was still going.
Yeah,
Like the credits sequence is 10 minutes long for some reason.
it used to be my favorite Jason as a kid. And then I fast forwarded it, and it's literally five. There's most of it's on the damn boat.
Yeah.
And yeah, I finished all of Jason Takes Manhattan in under 15 minutes. That's how quickly I fast forwarded it through it. But no, in Jason 3D, it was meant for 3D, so you don't get the full effect of it, but he takes the boyfriend's head and just slowly squashes it until the eyeballs pop out. And
Yeah.
just imagine being in that type of hold of somebody has you in a lock. You can't move. You're kind of you're knocked out a little bit, and you just feel your skull slowly crushing in, your brain's compressing, and then your eyeballs pop out of your head and you're gone.
Or
Or
worse, you somehow live.
somehow live and are laying around there with that another minute or two going, man, what I wouldn't give for some Excedrin.
I've got a headache that was this big,
It's
but
big,
now
and
it's
now it's
being
this
compressed.
big. It's
Anybody got a
right
glass of
here.
bourbon?
It's right here.
But yeah, I just think basic human strength and sometimes beats all weapons. I mean, even Leatherface had a lot of physical brute strength in his movies.
Depending on the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on how they portrayed him.
Yeah,
There's a
because
lot of
sometimes he was just kind of he
There's
was very feeble.
Yeah, there's a lot of those throughout movies, especially with the eyeballs and just thumbs in the eyeballs.
Yeah.
Throughout the last 40 years.
Yeah, I'm trying to was it the one oh Alexandra Daddario, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre where he's like full on angry brute.
I haven't seen that one in a long time. And I
Out of
don't
all the
remember
ones
a
to
lot
not
about it.
watch.
I don't sit around. I'm probably only ever revisit the first two.
Yeah. I don't
And I
I
actually
never
haven't watched Chainsaw in a long time. So I've watched part two
Which
in the last 10 years a lot more than I have part one, which
not
says probably
not
more about
apropos
me.
to our conversation today, but
well,
I
it's
think
far superior.
it's
It's a
I
different movie, but it's good.
oh what I'm like oh
Yeah.
which do you revisit more as far as the later sequels? Uh Texas Chainsaw or The Howling?
Uh,
Because how many
I
Yeah.
times have you watched the marsupial?
I have seen it once, and then I've seen part four once. That's the one where they're in the castle. And past that, I couldn't tell you anything about any of the rest.
Howling I have not seen in probably 3 decades.
I haven't seen the original in a long time. I was thinking about it the other day because my kid's now obsessed with werewolves. Well, likes
But
the
I have
transformation.
seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Oh,
numerous times.
werewolves. They're wolves. Rest in
They're
peace, Terry Garr.
yeah.
Yeah,
We're recording this on the day of her death.
but Chad didn't kill her that we know of.
No, but
So,
she may have had it coming.
am I
How do you
next?
say that? She was in Star Trek.
Dude, yeah, if you say third act one more time, I'm going to murder you.
So,
With what?
flamethrowers.
Oh, flamethrowers. That's a good one.
What?
Flamethrowers.
Oh, is that your next one?
Flamethrowers. I
Uh,
love a good flamethrower. I know you said guns, but technically it ain't a bullet.
no, I'm
No,
no.
It's
no, it's
gun.
not.
Flamethrowers
It
are
And
not a
and
gun.
and
it
what's
is.
funny is we know from their use in actual military how terrifying they can
They
be.
Yeah.
are absolutely positively.
Not only to the person getting shot, but the person using it.
Yep.
Now, that being said about the flamethrower, if
It,
DiCaprio taught us nothing else, like I said, Chad just said, it's hot on the back end of this too. Can't cool that down. And that's another one. I've actually picked things that I would be terrified of.
can you give an example of where a flamethrower is used in a horror movie?
I can give you a half a dozen. The Thing.
Yep. The
Okay.
thing is the first one that came out.
And then even actually, even as good, Night of the Creeps. That's how they use to fight off the creeps at the
But those
sorority.
are all the good guys. I'm talking about the okay. Is
Bad guy.
there is there any bad guys using flamethrowers?
The Exterminator.
I've
It's
not
from the
seen the
late 70s,
Exterminator. I
early
don't.
80s.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. Most of mine aren't. Most of the time, the bad guys don't have the flamethrowers. It's usually the good guys in my
So you're
version.
saying you sympathize?
I didn't realize we couldn't use that. I thought we're
No,
just
no,
talking
you're fine.
weapons
But
No,
of
no,
you're
no,
warfare.
but
no.
you're saying you sympathize with the aliens who take over human beings.
No, I just think a flamethrower would suck. It'd be a really, really shitty way to go. That may very well be worse than the damn chainsaw.
So our
No,
listeners, you're hearing it
there's
first.
nothing worse than burning. There's
So
nothing.
our
I,
listeners are hearing it first. Joe has a slug up his ass.
I think it's just a dick, but I mean, sure. I mean, whatever you want to call it,
Hold on.
whatever you need to do, whatever lies
Oh.
you need to tell yourself, you go right ahead.
Was it a good way to tell, Joe?
Well, I wasn't. Chad's
I
the
get-
only one concerned about
No,
it.
no, a good way to
I'm
tell,
not
Joe.
concerned.
If you can't tell the difference, Joe, a good way to tell was see a slug would be slimy going in and remain slimy the whole time.
I have a comeback to this, but it will take us past the R.
Yeah, I know. I almost stopped myself, but I was like,
It will take us past the R rating. So, I flamethrowers, man. I just think they're cool. They're cool looking, but I can't imagine a worse way to go. And I love, and the two movies that I really enjoy. Of course, one of them's a far superior film, but they're really good. They're really well used. I mean, you always think of the flamethrowers in The Thing, and I always think of her in that white formal dress with that flamethrower at the end of Night of the Creeps, fighting off the creeps.
Yeah. Man.
James,
I'm
please tell
going.
us about the slug and/or penis that's in your anus.
No, I'm good. Thank you. I'm going with I think one of the simplest weapons, but I think it's brutality and what all it can be used and what I've seen on film doing. Gentlemen, I think a hammer is one of the most brutal
Did you say a ham?
hammer.
Oh.
A hammer. Did I lag? The
There was
blessing.
no,
The
my
blessing.
audio cut out and all you said was ham.
You ever been beat to death with a ham? I can imagine it would suck.
I've never been beat to death with a
No.
ham.
Because you get Annie Wilkes as an example in the film. In the book, is it an axe in the book? Because she chops off.
Oh, and no, in the book, she what she does is she takes an axe and cuts off his hand and uses a torch to cauterize with the wound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, and actually, I was watching one of the things on Shudder, and they actually had someone that said this. In some ways, the movie's more brutal because you see it, like you see the bending of the foot, the bending. But not only that, I mean, you even have
You said ham
heroes
again.
that use hammers. Well, now you got me thinking about ham. If you would have said bacon, I'd be gone for the next 3 days.
It has to be the full ham. You can't go get deli slice because that won't do a thing.
Oh, dude, can you imagine how long that would take?
Yeah, no.
You'd be
Die from
praying
sodium
for death.
intake.
You'd be praying for death by about day 4 of me just taking ham slices and smacking you in the face with it.
Everything you're saying now is arousing me. Keep going.
You also have heroes like O'Day Sue from Old Boy.
Yeah.
The use of the hammer in the hallway. I mean, that's a brutal. He's a hero, quote unquote, and it's a brutal scene. There's something about the brutality of a hammer because it's blunt. It's no, I mean, if I'm stabbed and I'm stabbed in the heart, oh, it's gonna suck. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt bad for as long as it takes for my heart to quit beating. But just a contusion of a hammer against any part of your body, if it doesn't knock you out or kill you immediately,
It just hurts like hell.
it's gonna hurt. I mean, just
Yeah.
imagine hitting your thumb, but having somebody do it intentionally all over your body.
Yeah.
Just the amount of pain and suffering that can be caused by a hammer. And again, the realist in me goes, yeah, but you just take the hammer away from the person. Or if it's a supernatural thing, yeah, they're going to get overwhelmed by the zombies or the creatures or whatever. But just for sheer brutality, there's something about a hammer.
Yeah. If you had a hammer, you would hammer in the morning.
I'd hammer in the morning.
Yep.
I'd hammer in the evening all over this land.
All right, Chad.
Hey guys, I'm going in a different
Last
direction.
round.
I'm going in a different direction. I'm not going with a physical weapon. I'm not going with like the hammer or the knife, or earlier I did physical strength. I'm going the mystical. We're going to talk about curses.
Yes.
Hold on. Foiled again? I don't have a mustache tutorial here.
I would not want to be in terms of movies used weapons used in horror movies. I would not want to receive a curse like the one,
No,
like
keep
the movies you
first.
see, like Drag Me to Hell, Thinner. I would not want to go through those experiences, especially Thinner. You just slowly waste away to nothing.
And he
You get
eats
to
constantly.
You get to eat a lot of stuff, though.
But eventually you just become nothing.
Well, yeah, but that happens to you whether you eat all of it or not. It's just,
And everything you have to do to try to get to be normal again, which is not a lot. About oddly enough, both of these involve doing awful things to nomadic people. Here it says gypsy, but I know both of these are, but that's no longer a PC term. Romani, thank you. I was looking for the correct term. And Drag Me to Hell, it's the same thing. This woman does a horrible thing to a woman to try to advance her career. And as a result, she is cursed to go to hell. And it's watching her to slowly, just slowly, all the stuff that is happening to her as she slowly works her way down to hell.
Yeah.
And the shit she's going through. I mean, imagine this. Sure, a butcher knife, hammer, physical strength, flamethrower. Those are quick and sometimes painless deaths. A curse.
Or at least short-lived pain.
Even for example, the Wolfman. That's a curse. These are deaths that can take weeks, months, years. You can't get away from it.
Sorry, was that from? I can't remember if it was Family Guy or The Simpsons. There's an entire line that says, "Oh, I've been cursed. I'll only live to see 65, or depending on genetics and other things, maybe 80."
These are weapons that are used to make you suffer. These are not weapons that are used to kill you. You are going to feel your death, and it's going to be a long and painful one. So that's why when we came up with this idea, I had to put curses in here. It is the perfect weapon for human suffering.
And what's funny, I think your point's really valid, Chad, because I think the other thing that films tell us is, and pop culture in general, I should say, is that most of the time they can be undone if you're willing to do, it's actually one of my favorites, speaking of Simpsons Treehouse of Terror, the episode where Homer gets cursed to where everyone around him will suffer. And one of my favorite scenes, two scenes in it parallel exactly what you're saying, where Homer goes back to sick the leprechaun on her because Joe, what is the leprechaun worth?
Oh shit. It's you. You can't, Jesus. It's 2 or 3 leprechauns for one.
But
Jesus.
leprechauns are a lot easier to find.
Find the Jesus. That's
Uh,
it. But there's like, yeah, you get you a leopard. It's like a Jesus, like 2 or 3 leprechauns is the line I always think
yep.
is hilarious. But what is that? I gotta go watch that again.
Oh, it's the one of Pierce Brosnan.
Oh,
I remember that.
I gotta Google that one.
But because because apropos to your point, Chad, the scene that I always think of in that is when he shows back up and she literally begins with the cursed one. How's it going, Kirsty? And keeps mentioning he's cursed, and then Homer's relying back on, you might not remember me, but I don't know why. That scene gets me every time. And then at the end, where they're going through and the leprechaun is marrying the person who put the curse on him and all that stuff, and Marge is of course now covered in hair, and Lisa is a horse, and Bart's dead because his neck got so long that he killed
Right.
himself. And there's that great line of, well, what do you want me to do, Marge? Apologize? That won't bring Bart back. Gypsy said it would. Yeah, I'm not going to apologize. And I think that's what's funny is most of the time the film, if people would take a certain action,
Right.
and you kind of see it in Thinner. Thinner,
Yeah.
he eventually is able to get them to take the curse off with
Yeah.
some complications.
No, they don't. I mean, he messes up.
Yeah, no. I mean,
Well,
yes,
he loses it, but he ends up killing everybody around him. But yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, yeah,
that's got a
yeah.
good
So
third act.
Bitch.
it actually, I mean, yeah,
It does. It has a good ending.
Yeah. The book, honestly, it's one of those weird ones where the book, it almost follows the book to a T, yet the book is still better than the movie.
I don't think I've ever actually read that book.
Yeah, I love the book. Um, by the way, so nobody yells at me, The Ring is also a good example of a curse movie. I don't know if Hellraiser fits into the curse
Well,
option.
Hellraiser was what I was going to talk about, and I
Then you
decided
go.
to walk away from it. No,
Oh.
because that's actually a fear of mine, would be like eternal damnation and being past, life past this existence.
Right.
But I think I can't. There's so many tried and true things that we haven't talked about, and nobody's actually going to get. I always say we're going to shit on, but so I won't say those. What I will do for my last one is say, and I'm going to put them in a bunch because I thought about power tools and I walked off of that because they are used in so many 80s slasher films, but they're just so stupid. Especially since most of the cordless things didn't exist at that time. Second,
sorry, you're right. You're right. I was picturing that in my mind going, oh, gee, I'm going to kill him with this power drill as long as they don't get longer than this extension cord.
dude, it's,
Well, if you
it's
want
an actual joke in Body Double. In Brian
Yeah.
De Palma's Body Double, he unplugs.
Yeah. If you want to see a prime example of all that, you can always watch Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, there's a good example.
Yeah,
Of course,
yeah.
they're also possessed by space ghosts.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That electric knife still gets me to this day.
Oh yeah, they're possessed by space ghosts, but what about Zorak?
that's true.
I knew it was coming.
Mine is, I'm going to put them into a group, and it's close to what you said, James, but I think is axes, pit axes, all those things need to go, all those hand tools. So, axe is something that we've seen so many times through so many horror films over 50 years. Pickaxes, I said pickaxes, I meant pickaxes. Pickaxes, like My Bloody Valentine, the original and the remake, all those kinds of axes and things that you can just blunt force trauma into somebody if you have enough power and force. I got to mention that. I can't think of I mean, they're all through all the Friday the 13th films too. They're all the way through all axes. Shit, American Psycho is great. The first thing that came to my mind as far as a really good murder scene with axes is American Psycho.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, Joe, I'm glad you mentioned those types of tools because they're also the ones that we see in actual cases in history. Lizzie Borden.
Where people do cut people up. I mean, and it's what's available and what they have.
Yeah. So I think that's a good one because it's real. We know people did it. Not the way it's done in horror movies usually, but you had people like Lizzie Borden, allegedly.
Yeah.
Don't want the historians to come back at me.
Yeah.
So
Basically.
you had these figures and it's absolutely terrifying. And I think the other part about it is the reason it works so well is that we know the history of it and how these tools were used in history. So I think about like, scalps,
Yep.
using axes to collect scalps, which was done to get paid,
Yep.
which is a horrible part of our history, but there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All right.
that's a good one.
Who's last? James, go.
Hey, James.
It's me. Honestly, I was sitting here thinking about I had a different answer, but then it dawned on me. You know what's one of the most terrifying weapons used in films, in horror films, in action films, and everything else, is one that, I can remember how bad I wanted one of my own, right, growing up, and how I think it's a rite of passage for so many people, and that's cars.
Yeah.
Cars are tools of mass destruction. In reality, sometime I've lost 4 family members to car accidents, where they died in car accidents, and so um, I think there's something to it though because it works so well on film. And actually, you could talk about Christine, you could talk about the supernatural ones, but I think you also see films like Death Proof. I think
Yeah.
to a certain extent, you can talk about movies like Falling Down, the concept of road rage, the concept of there is something inherently creepy and powerful about the fact that, quite frankly, it's one of the few things that I have to prove that I'm somewhat capable of using it once, and then they'll pretty much, until my vision fails or I'm not wearing my glasses, let me get one. And my father, when he was teaching me how to drive, I'll never forget it. I literally got behind the wheel for the first time that I was going to be driving on the open road. And my dad's words were, "You just load a gun. Who are you pointing to? And always remember, it also is pointing right back at you."
Oh, it's
And I
good.
think
It's true.
it's true, dude. I'm 40 some years old. He told me that at 16. It is burned into my head. And so I think that's one of the things that when I think about horror movies, because again, you can talk about Christine, but Death Proof is a great example. Like he has that car fully planned. Now he's going to get minorly hurt, as we see,
Mm-hmm.
but he's going to kill more people than he's ever going to get hurt.
Yep.
And until the tables are turned on him, and if you haven't seen Death Proof, check it out. It's made by some upstart director. I don't know. Anyway, but
Stupid
yeah,
guy.
so I think cars are a great horror device in and of themselves. And I think even when they're not the weapon per se, there's something so iconic about them. I mean, I was saying about on our first or second episode, we talked about the creeper.
Yeah.
And his car. It's never used. I don't think it's used to kill anybody in the first film, but it's such a big part of it that it was a guest at Scarefest, the vehicle itself. Christine's a guest at horror conventions. The front of the truck from Maximum Overdrive, the Green Goblin head, are at horror conventions.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is something so tied into horror about cars, about automation, movement, and so vehicles become this great weapon in horror movies.
Yeah.
The truck in Pet Cemetery. I mean,
Yep.
it's all horror. It works so
It is.
well because
And it's a daily horror, like you were talking about.
yeah, but yet we all want one. We all need
Yep.
one. We all have to have one. But it's something that, man, the second you disrespect it, the second you don't watch what you're doing, and so I think that's why it works so well in horror movies too. It's the thing that you have to have that can kill you. It's a
Yeah.
phenomenal metaphor for a horror movie to explore, and there's many films that do it. So that's one that came to my mind for my closing one.
Okay. There's a ton of honorable mentions. I guess we should talk. Well, I mean, I know we'll probably get shit on if we don't say something about Freddy's glove, but
Yeah,
anything for you two?
the
The
honorable
only thing that
mention.
was ever terrifying me about Freddy's glove was in Freddy was Dream Warriors when he sliced open the guy's wrist and used his veins as puppets.
Yes,
I don't think it
that's
terrifies me either as much as Freddy terrifies. You know, it's kind
Yeah.
of it's just it's a iconic visage, I suppose is what I
Yeah,
should
it
say.
never never terrified me. Freddy terrified me, but specifically the veins.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Oh, that's a good
that
one.
messed with me so bad as a kid.
By the way, speaking of which, and I don't remember, I never found out where it was. I just saw the clip, but if maybe I wanted to actually bring it up, and I'll do it while we're recording still, because in case other people want to find it. Do you know where the interview was? It looked relatively recent, where Robert Englund talked about how he envisioned Freddy, like why Freddy was so bad even after he was dead.
Why?
That in the way he always played him was that he wants to just move on, even if that's going to hell. He wants to do it because he's in a constant limbo where if he's not remembered, he doesn't exist, but he can't move on until he's remembered and does something so bad that he finally at least gets into, and in his mind, hell is better than that limbo. And he said that's how he played him. And I was like, it's a fascinating 5-minute interview where I was like, oh, it's interesting.
Okay. All right. Any more honorable mentions?
I'll just say animals. People who train animals or animals that are used for horror effects. Ton of
those, yeah.
Yeah, and there's something so creepy about it because, I mean, there's certain animals, like, for me, you trained a snake to kill? Yeah, that's called a snake. But I think when it's really effective is when it's an animal that you don't think about killing.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes used for great humor, too. We've talked about watching Slaughterhouse. But that's just an example of here's this creature that wants to kill you. And you think it's cute, you think it's fluffy, but given the chance, this sloth wants to kill you. And I think that's true for several different creatures. Sometimes I think it's true of my household cat.
It's true. Chad.
I got to bring up one that truly terrifies me more than anything in the world. That is being killed by an oversized fish hook. I am, of course, referring to the movie Blood Hook.
You know one I thought you should say, and that I don't think we didn't say?
Nobody responding to Blood Hook?
Teeth. Whether it be biting, whether it be ripping, whether it be vampires, it's teeth.
Yeah, there's something inherently creepy about it. Being eaten. I mean, it's effectively even if it's a vampire, they're eating part of you.
Yeah. It's not as scary as a giant fish hook going into my neck and killing me.
Isn't it, though?
And with that, I think we have the end of Bonehead Weekly's This Is How We're Going to Kill You episode.
Blood Hook, people, look it up.
Or, in all fairness, if you see us out and about, try this experiment. Try to kill us with kindness.
The more you know. This has been Bonehead Weekly.